everybody, and welcome back to the stream. It's Friday, and you know what that means. It's time for functional home fitness, where we do weight training using objects you can find around the house. Today's star is going to be the laundry detergent bottle for reasons that will eventually become obvious. But hi, we've made it through another week, sort of, mostly. I don't know, friends. I'm feeling pretty exhausted these days, I'm not gonna lie. I feel, time has no meaning, but also I'm just tired all the time. I'm sure many of you know that feeling. But the apartment smells delicious because there's chili on the stove right now. So that is going to help carry me through class today. And if you ever need help getting into cooking, consider the delight of putting something on the stove before class and then having it ready after class. And it's perfectly timed for you to start refueling yourself post-workout, and the smell helps to keep you motivated because you know that you're giving it time to cook and also taking care of your body. So while we're working out at home anyway, again, here we are trying to get creative with as many things as we can in our lives right now, just with the world the way it is. So always take a second to look around and appreciate the things that you are getting creative with, because this kind of intense and constant, never-ending stress definitely does a number on a lot of us, particularly those of us who consider ourselves to be creatives. There are generations of literature, proclaiming the tortured artist metaphor, and from experience, I gotta say, it's mostly bullshit. Because strangely enough, when you're hungry or worried about where your next paycheck is coming from, or cold all the time because you have no heat in the apartment, strangely enough, it's hard to actually focus on creativity. So let's find all of those small places where we are still being creative, even if it's just something as simple as this class, where we're like, it never occurred to me to use the stock pot as a weightlifting tool, and yet here I am. I never thought that I would get to pull those old textbooks that I've been, for some reason, carting around since college back off the shelf, but now I have a great reason to do it. It makes me feel like I didn't, waste hundreds of dollars on books that I would read once and never again. So, always good to remind ourselves of the small points of creativity, and to appreciate that, particularly if you've been feeling like you're struggling with that, which is a feeling I totally understand. So let's take a second and, just come up with something in your head. So something that you've been really creative with, whether it's, a way to remind yourself to hydrate, by, every time a specific song comes on, you get up and fill a water glass, to, cooking for yourself more by every time that you're about to come on the stream, you start something up and then you have it ready when stream is done. There's a lot of ways to be creative, and it is a good thing to remind ourselves of. So, all right, my friends. It's Friday. It's, dark outside. We're in December, so we're in the final push of 2020. 2021 is around the corner. It's still going to carry a lot of these same challenges with it, so, it's not necessarily something that I am feeling no stress about, but we're here. We're gathered together, and that's a good starting place. So let's do some class. Let's have some exercise. So today, if this is your first time on the stream, Hello, welcome. Today's our free weight training class using stuff you can find around the house because many of us do not have sets of dumbbells and kettlebells in our homes, which is where you are presumably taking this class. So my two main advisories for this class, one of them specific to this class and the other one more specific to free weight training in general. If this is your first time, we are obviously using objects that are not specifically designed for weightlifting. So they are not nicely shaped with really convenient handles a lot of the time, and they don't have marked on the side, their exact weight in pounds or kilograms. And so that means that we're not able to load ourselves quite as deliberately as we could in a gym. So if this is your first class, and you just sort of walked around and gathered what you could think of, err on the side of caution when you're loading for each exercise. And if you get through a set and you're like, okay, that was light, I could add more on, go for it. That's why tote bags, stock pots are great for this class, because you can fill them with books and you can slowly ramp that up. So yeah, if you do a set and decide that was not enough weight, awesome, you have more information and you can up the weight a little bit. But don't start by loading yourself way down with everything you can think of, because you don't know what the amount of weight is that you're using in that instance, and it's better to build up our understanding of how much things weigh so we know how we can challenge ourselves safely in this class. The other advisory, more generalized to free weight training, and something that I wish somebody had told me a few years ago, particularly with arm exercises for free weights, which tend to be, I have one weight in each hand, and I am manipulating them at the same time. Humans are not symmetrical creatures. We all have a stronger arm and a weaker arm, and we can also frequently have a tendency to think that the best way to strengthen our weaker side is by loading it according to the capacity of our stronger side. Being like, all right, yeah, let's load it down because my stronger side can totally manage this, and my weaker side just really needs to work harder. So we'll load them down according to what my stronger side can do, and that'll be fine. It's not fine. Always load yourself based on the capacity of your weaker side. Hi, my dear, good to see you. Because if you are trying to overload your weaker side, and it just doesn't have the strength to be able to manage that amount of weight, then it's going to be making really unhealthy modifications to try and work through different exercises, and you are absolutely setting yourself up for an injury, and it is absolutely likely that injury may become a chronic injury. That's what I did to myself with my shoulder a few years ago, and I just wish I had somebody in the class I was taking be like, hey, maybe don't load yourself up that heavily. So always load based on the capacity of your weaker side, not your stronger side. It may feel a little light for your stronger side, and that's fine. I would rather underload your stronger side than overload your weaker side and set you up for injury. All right? There we go. I have to give that caveat every class. It feels particularly important right now because, as those of you who've been taking class this week know, my shoulder has been acting up for about a month now, to the point where I have made the decision that I have to go see my chiropractor, which is not a decision I take lightly, particularly in the middle of the pandemic. But considering the fact that I am a fitness instructor and kind of need full mobility and stability and strength, it is a choice that feels necessary. So please, oh, please do everything you can to not set yourself up for chronic injuries, because they suck and they get in the way of your exercise a lot more than underloading. Okay? All right. That's the end of the serious. Now we go to the pre-class checklist. We got our water. I've been staring at it for the last 5 minutes. Clearly I needed some more water. We got our comfy clothes on. We've got our mats or mat-sized space on the floor. We've got our fitness wearables if you use one. If you don't, that is fine. If you do, turn it on now to a strength training setting, not high intensity interval training, because that's not what today's class is going to be like. And make sure you've got your stuff. I literally am just using the laundry detergent bottle today. So if you have a similar bottle, you could probably just stick with that. Other items I would recommend for today's class would be tote bags or a backpack with the top handle. Okay? But now that we got that, let's get this party started by warming ourselves up. All right. Oh, that's not what I like the timer app to look like. No. Oh boy. Do you ever have those times when your electronics all seem to be kind of acting funky? Because that is kind of what I haven't been able to close the Epic Games launcher on my laptop in like 2 days. And my phone's being a little funky, and I feel like all my electronics are trying to tell me something, and I just can't tell what. So we'll see. But first, we'll warm up. So, everybody on your mats, on your backs, 1 foot crossed over the opposite knee, and as soon as you hear that horn, we will begin with our hip rocks and bridges. Hoorah! All right. And remembering, as always, that this is a warm-up, so we are not here to immediately start pushing ourselves for 100% energy output, because our bodies have not yet started really ramping up our energy production. So, there's not a ton to use, and if you go through what little you have available right now, you're not going to have a ton left for the rest of class, and that just doesn't seem ideal, because this is an hour-long class. So you probably want to save some of that energy for the other 45 minutes after the warm-up. So if you're coming into the warm-up and you're like, oh man, I feel like I'm not pushing myself the way that I should be, take heart in the knowledge that, honestly, especially at the beginning of the warm-up, we're not pushing ourselves for energy output is not our goal. Our goal right now is to allow ourselves to boot up all of the necessary systems that we need for exercise. So getting our brain on board with, okay, I need to start sending the appropriate electrical signals down to the muscle fibers, getting the muscle fibers going, okay, it's time to start turning on my glycolytic energy production systems, breaking down ATP, and getting those fuel sources ready for consumption, and that kind of thing. So that's where we are right now. We're not trying to dive straight into the deep end. We are very deliberately warming ourselves up first. All right. Jane Fonda time. Here we are. A nice straight line of the body, an engaged core to help us maintain this balance up on our hips, okay? If I am not engaging my core, then it makes it more likely that I'm gonna go rolling in one direction or another, and I don't want to do that. I want everything to be nice and stable and still, except for my working leg, okay? So my working leg has this nice stable base that is being maintained, and so it knows that it can go through its motion without worrying that anything is gonna fall out of whack down here. All right, taking that top foot, putting it flat on the floor in front of the bottom knee, and we're lifting that bottom leg, and we are keeping this top leg nice and opened up with the knee pointing up straight towards the ceiling. All right, depending on the flexibility in your hip, you may have an easier or a harder time with this. Okay, so again, I was talking before class about how we are not symmetrical creatures. That goes beyond just, having a stronger arm and a weaker arm. That goes into, having one hip be more flexible than the other, having one ankle be better at balance positions than the other. There are just tons of small inconsistencies, and it's really important for you to be aware of all of these differences. It's really critical that when I have you start doing, say, the wide squat position that we do later in the warm-up, where you have to be able to hold your knees open and safely over your feet, it's important that you know, okay, which side is my less flexible hip, so which side is going to have a tougher time with that? Which side do I need to really engage the musculature of my hip joint in order to pull that knee back into the correct position, versus just sort of being able to set it and forget it the way I can do on my more flexible side. And this is just, it's information that we need to know. It's information that makes us better at our workouts, better and safer. Again, if I go into a free weight workout and I know which arm is stronger and which arm is weaker, then I know that when I'm testing out, okay, what weight amount do I want to use, I make sure that it's something that my weaker side can manage without feeling like it has to push itself out of alignment and go through some weird contorted position to get through the exercise. And if I don't have that information, then it's easier for me to end up with various injuries. So always take every opportunity in class to figure out more information about your body, to learn more about your body, okay, and about how it interacts with different exercises, how it interacts with different styles of class and activity, and take that information and use it as part of your fitness process. And it's going to make you safer, and it's going to just strengthen your foundation so that you can challenge yourself more intensely than you might have been able to before, because you have that knowledge, because you understand where you want to improve, but you also understand what you need to keep an eye on so that you're doing the work safely. Okay? Always important. All right. We're on our last leg exercise of this sequence. And then we'll move into opening up our backs and our hips. Oh, having a grand old time, man. And for once, I don't even mind that I'm going to be wildly overheated during today's class, because everything smells so delicious, and I am very, very excited. I wish Twitch would figure out like smell-o-vision technology Or Willy Wonka, he could figure it out too. That's true. But yeah, that will be a nice thing to have post class. Good refueling. But I do dream also. I must confess of the day when I will have an actual studio for myself to run these classes in, rather than just shoving myself into my living room, because it's a little intense. It's a little intense, and again, we're being creative. We are, figuring out what we can do with the tools that we have available to us, and that is a really important skill, and it helps us to keep this work going through these really intensely challenging times. But there's also something to be said for identifying things that you do want to improve when you have the means and the ability, and that's definitely one of those things for me, which I think makes sense. And it would have been the case, no matter how these classes ended up going. All right, we're doing our nice big torso rotations. Are you feeling that stretch through your hamstrings, the back of your knees each time you come through the full rotation? Holding our imaginary PVC pipes over our heads. Remember that we are initiating the movement with our hips. We're not initiating any of this movement with our arms or heads or any other part. All right? And now we squat. Yes, always a good exercise to check in on, and always a good opportunity to really pay attention to your form for the first time. A lot of the earlier exercises in the warm-up they're exercises that have a correct form, absolutely, but because we're on the ground, we're not standing, we're not putting a lot of weight and pressure on different areas, there are fewer ramifications for not doing the exercise correctly. These squats are, I think, the first point in the warm-up where it's like, okay, it is now important for me to start paying attention to my form and making sure that it is correct and that that foundation is nice and solid. And then we come here into our Samson stretches and have our next opportunity. So checking in on our hips, making sure that they are staying straight forward no matter where I am in the movement. So when I come back here to this lunge, I don't want my hips to start pulling away from each other, to start opening out. More like this is like a warrior 2 position in yoga. Push that hip back forward. You want those pelvic bones always facing forward, no matter where you are in the exercise. All right? And now we come here. We've got our nice wide squat position. We get a little bit of an assist on the knees by having our hands here, sort of pushing them out, levering them out. Really convenient. Take advantage of it. The only thing that should be moving are your shoulders as you bring first one in towards the midline and then the other. I'm just going to hold here for now because, as I've said, my shoulders are feeling some things, so they don't necessarily like that twist as much as they normally would. But for you, the only movement that you should be undertaking is that twist, getting that twist in the upper back from bringing one shoulder in and then the next. All right. And then we come to the cardio portion of our warm-up. So we're getting to those final systems that we're booting up. So getting our cardiovascular systems online. Our heart rate starts going a little faster. Our breath starts going a little faster so we can move that oxygen more quickly throughout our body and make sure that our muscle fibers have everything they need to be running those energy production systems. Oxygen's a huge part of that. That's why we need to be making sure that we are always breathing, all right? Even if we're doing held position, you don't want to hold your breath at the same time, okay? So make sure that you are still breathing. All right, kick-throughs, which are our most complex warm-up exercise. So shoulder engaged, stabilized, so not sinking down directly over wrist. Standing leg, you want 90-degree angle with the knee pointing up towards the ceiling and then kicking that other leg straight across the body and then going back and forth. So you're not taking a position where your hands and feet are really far away from one another. And if you've been struggling with this exercise, that may be a component. So we're not way back here, we're here. So we can keep that connection between the whole. All right. Last, but certainly not least, we've got our burpees. So we jump to the plank, but then we do a wave push-up, keeping those elbows straight in by your sides, and a nice big victory clap up at the top as you do that jump. All right, and this is our last exercise in the warm-up. So we are putting much more energy in than we were at the beginning. Still not, at 100%, but we are feeling the movement. We have warmed up. We have stretched out, and we are ready for the rest of class. All right, good job, everyone. Let's grab some water. How about? Oh yeah, it's time. Okay, my friends. So we're gonna have a pretty chill class. And what I mean by that, we're doing our usual structure. We're going back to, we're gonna have 4 exercises, cycle through them 4 times each. And we're gonna be on those 2-minute intervals. So we do however much of the exercise we can do, and then we use the rest of the interval as rest time. And then once the timer goes off again, we start the next exercise, okay? So all of that is per usual. What we're doing today in terms of exercises is, we always do equal numbers arm exercises and leg exercises. And today, basically we only have 2 exercises, but we do one side at a time, okay? And so we'll do first side on arms, second side on arms, first side on legs, second side on legs. And that's going to be the structure, okay? I'm going to bring my water with me. Get it prepped in advance. Always good to make sure that your water is easily accessible wherever you end up in the room, okay? So obviously, usually I leave mine by the computer just because I will come over there to talk to you all between things. But for something like this where we just set the timer going and let it do its thing, better for me to just have it over where I'm going to be. All right, so our arm exercise is going to be a farmer's carry. And so you want something with a top handle, which is why this laundry detergent bottle is so great. And you want a good amount of weight, okay? Because we're not actively lifting or manipulating the weight. So you can use heavier weight than you might normally. And so you set yourself up, you have your arm out, away from your side, and make sure that your shoulder is engaged and is holding that weight. This is really important. Our shoulders are very unstable, and if I'm not actively engaging it, well, this is a heavy weight. It's going to start pulling my arm down like that, and we do not want that, okay? So engaged shoulder, weight held a little bit out from your side, and you're just going to walk back and forth with that weight, okay? I'm doing a heel-toe walk, so I put my heel at the tip of my other foot's toes, and then same thing. I am engaging my core to really help because I want the rest of my body to be nice and stable and mostly straight, okay? I don't want to be pulling myself in weird directions. So core engaged, shoulder engaged. And then we do the other side. Same thing, core engaged, shoulder engaged. So what I'm going to do for this, since it's not a number of reps, is I'm going to let you know when a minute has passed. All right? Try to get to a minute. If you can't, that's fine. Know your body's needs. And if you can go past a minute, that's fine too. Just remember that, our rest is built into this timer. So whatever rest you think you're going to need, you have to keep that in mind as well. Okay? And then for our feet, we're going to do our toe raises. So again, I'm holding the weight. I'm engaging that shoulder again so it does not start sinking down. I'm going to have my hand on a wall or a counter, just something to stabilize me. And I'm going to balance on the same foot, or the foot that's on the same side as the weight. And I'm just going to lift up and down, up and down. If you are near some stairs, that can be, usually I would do this exercise off of like a small stair. It lets the heel come down a little bit lower and just increases the intensity of the force that's needed to push yourself up. But you can absolutely do it from the ground, which is exactly what I'm doing. So that is totally fine. So those are our exercises. So we will do farmer's carry, side one, side two, toe raise, side one, side two, and then repeat. And that's gonna be our jam, my friends. So let's all get ourselves back to our mats. Make sure you have whatever object you are going to use, okay? Again, make sure it's something that your weaker side can manage, without contorting itself. Remember the importance of core engagement, and get ready, because as soon as you hear the timer, we will begin, okay? So you've got your weight, you're in position, your core is engaged, your shoulders engaged, and you are going, all right? So again, you all know how important form is to me and to you, honestly. I'm not just doing this because, you know, for shits and giggles. I focus on it because it is a really integral component of our workouts, and it's one that does not get nearly enough focus in my estimation. So really, especially in this first set, especially if you've never really done farmer's carry before, really try and just focus on each piece. So focus on that arm. How's that shoulder engagement doing? It's been a minute now, officially. How are you feeling holding that weight a little bit away from your side? Is that getting harder? Maybe it's time to rest, put that down, get a little water, get prepped for the next side. Other things to think about in terms of form. How's that core engagement, all right? I talk about it all the time, but seriously, our cores are just integral for stability and for generating motion and power. So they're the whole package. They can do everything, and it is really important that we give them that love and attention, and that we make sure that we are deliberately, intentionally including them in these exercises, okay? So I am intentionally engaging my abdominal muscles. It's helping me to keep my torso straight, again, helping me to not either pull myself in this direction to try and manage the weight better, or let myself get pulled over in that other direction by the weight. And it means that I can focus even more of my energy and attention into that shoulder, okay? Our shoulders, they are designed for such an incredible range of motion. It's really amazing, you know? They're very deliberately designed so that they can move all over the place, which is awesome. 1 minute has passed, FYI, but it also makes them very unstable. And it means that it is very easy for us to end up with shoulder issues, dislocations, things that become chronic. I've told you over and over again, I have not one but 2 different friends who had to have shoulder surgery this year, and that's just crazy. So putting time and deliberate effort into strengthening those shoulders and into checking in and making sure that they're engaged, not pulled up, okay? When I want you to stabilize the shoulder, I don't mean pull it all the way up to your ear, okay? But you know the difference between my shoulder is actively holding this weight and my shoulder is being dragged down by this weight. All right, time for our first toe exercise. So again, we are still making sure that the shoulder is engaged, not getting dragged around, not getting pulled downward, but we are no longer having to walk anywhere. We're getting to stay right here and just focus on these toe raises. I guess I can give you a number of reps for these. I'd say try to get to at least 25 and then see where you want to go from there. So I will still let you know when a minute's gone by, in case that is relevant to you. But yeah, try to get to at least 25 and feel that calf working. Oh boy howdy, is it ever working. And it's having to work even harder than normal because it's pushing through that weight. All right, a minute has passed. If you need some stretches and you have a handy wall available, taking the leg that you want to stretch the calf on, reaching it behind you, you want to be able to get that heel all the way down to the floor to maximize the stretch. That's where the wall can come in handy. You can add a little bit of additional force. You know, so if I'm here and I'm like, well, I can't quite get my heel back down, but the stretch doesn't feel as useful when I bring my foot closer, push against the wall, gently but firmly push that heel down using that external force and intensify, deepen the stretch, okay? Now we'll probably want to do the same stretch on the other side once we have finished side 2 of our toe raises. Hey, there we go. Da, da, da. See, this is the thing that messes me up about this timer. I've changed the ordering of sounds ever so slightly. And it's a very different timer from the ones that I use in our more high-intensity interval training classes. But yeah, I hear that knocking sound, and then what I expect to hear next is the fanfare noise. But instead I hear the starter sound from when we're doing perpetual motion sets. And sometimes it throws me off a little bit. Not always, but every once in a while I go, oh, that wasn't the sound I was expecting. Am I in the right place here? Usually I am, which is good. All right, a minute has passed, my friends. So again, if you need that calf stretch, oh yeah, now's the time to go ahead and stretch that calf out. Grab some water. We're not doing, intensive cardio right now, so it can take longer for us to build up those clearer external signs of hard work, lots of sweat and heavy breathing and all of that stuff. So it can be easier for us to be like, oh, I don't need to drink as much water. You still need to drink as much water. I'm willing to bet that you're already dehydrated because many of us, if not most of us, are pretty bad at hydrating ourselves. So as we come back around to our second set of the farmer's carries, I want you to make sure that you are hydrating yourselves throughout class, even if you don't feel like the exercise necessarily demands it, it still demands it, all right? And your body still demands it. Hydration is just a critical component of our lives. And it's remarkable that something that's so important is something that we adult humans can be so bad at remembering. But here we are, my friends. So if your other arm, the arm that does not have the weight, is drifting out a little bit, that's okay. That's okay. It's providing a little bit of counterbalance, and that's useful. A minute has gone by, FYI, so, oh yeah, feeling good. And this is an opportunity for us to really learn what it feels like when our shoulders are actively engaged in stabilizing, okay? Because these exercises do not require range of motion from our shoulders. They don't require being able to move, 360 degrees or anything like that. They require stability, stableness, stillness. And we are not always trained well in that, and as a result, can frequently end up with shoulder issues. So take this opportunity. You're engaging your core, yes. You've got that other arm floating for a little counterbalance, yes. But really, the star of this show is your shoulder. Really engaged and stabilized and holding that weight in place. It is probably a heavier weight than you usually would use for a free weight exercise. As I said, we can go a little heavier on this because we're not trying to move through space. So feel how that feels. Feel how that strength and engagement kicks in. How your shoulder goes, oh, okay, this is asking something very different of me. All right, a minute has gone by. Oh, I'm really liking this, honestly. And not just because it's good for my shoulders to have a break from some of our more wildly moving exercises, but, you know, particularly if you didn't grow up doing activities that focus on weight lifting, on free weights, this is stuff you may never have had to really think about all that much. You know, my training, I've been a dancer since I was 5. And, you know, obviously there are plenty of things you can do in a piece of dance that require that stability in your shoulders. But it's not something that's drilled into you, and certainly never incorporates a heavy weight, or most of the time never incorporates a heavy weight in addition. So, you know, I was able to make it to adulthood without really having that understanding. You know, I did myself a disservice when I started moving into different activities, different exercise fitness activities, in not really putting in the work I should have put in to learn more about the form requirements and about, you know, what aspects of the activity that I may not understand. You know, I leaned back on my decades of dance training, which is not insubstantial experience. A minute has gone by, FYI. It's not insubstantial experience, my friends. I will put professional dancers up against any other professional athlete in the world, and I'll bet on them every time. But it does mean that, but I didn't have that information. I didn't have that background, and I did myself a disservice in assuming that my experience as a dancer was all that I needed to be able to move into other activities. Every activity has different specific components of form that may be specific to that activity that you may never have had to think of when you were doing something else, okay? And so every time that you move into a new activity, make sure that you are approaching it as a beginner, okay? You are approaching it as a newcomer, you know, a newcomer with a lot of natural gifts, obviously, but a newcomer who still has a lot to learn and who needs to have that curiosity and that willingness to be taught, all right? And that curiosity and that willingness to be a beginner, those are skills that will serve you so well in anything that you end up doing or testing out. You know, there are plenty of things that I have tried that I have not necessarily stuck with because I went into it assuming that I was already going to be really amazing at it. And when I wasn't, a minute's gone by, I said, well, screw that. You know, and we've talked about that. We've talked about how perfect is the enemy of good, and we've talked about the ways in which we sabotage ourselves by assuming that anything that we are not immediately perfect at is not worth our time and our effort to dig into. So, you know, there are things that I really want to go back to now because I feel like I have such a better handle on the understanding that just because I've been an active person my whole life doesn't mean I know everything I need to know for anything I might ever try. And having that attitude, I'm really excited to try some other things. All right. Round 3, my friends. So we are halfway through, and now is a great time to check in on that form. Make sure that it is still just as good as it was when you started, okay? So we always want to come back to that. Is my form still just as good in this third run through as it was in my first? Do I feel myself trying to introduce more of a lean to manage the weight, or am I still able to engage my shoulder and hold the weight? Am I still engaging my core to keep everything nice and stable, or am I starting to feel a little bit of an S-curve happening there? A minute has gone by. You know, now is the time for us to really dig in and go, how does the sensation of doing this exercise shift as my muscles get more fatigued, okay? And knowing how it starts to shift, what do I need to be focusing on to make sure that I am still hanging on to that form and doing that form correctly, okay? Because that's huge, and that's where we start. That's where we need to start with everything. We need that form to stay strong, all right? And that should always be the first thing that you are worrying about. Not worrying, but paying attention to, okay? So, you know, there are plenty of instances where going until failure is a viable strategy for an activity that you're doing. However, going till failure does not mean going until I can no longer maintain the form and then continuing to go. Okay? It means go until maintaining that form feels so intensely difficult that I do not believe I will be able to continue maintaining it on my next rep. All right? That's the secret. Not just continuing to manhandle the weight until you literally cannot move it. That's not useful. All right? A minute has gone by. That's not useful. If you're over here just pushing this weight through space, you know, letting your body go willy-nilly, setting yourself up for injury, that's not helping you. That's not helping your long-term exercise. That's not helping your overall strength, your ability to maintain your fitness program. Not helpful, okay? So make sure that if you're doing activities where you are going till failure, make sure you understand what failure means. Failure does not mean I go until I can't move anymore, even if the movement I was doing right beforehand was absolutely terrible. It means I go until I cannot hold the form anymore. All right? And when we make that change in our minds and in our expectations of how we perform on sets like that, then we have immediately done ourselves a service. All right? We have immediately set ourselves up to be safer and to ultimately be able to get stronger and to be able to work harder, because we're not training our bodies in bad habits. Hey, amazing. You've heard me say it before, and you will no doubt hear me say it again, that I would rather you do 2 perfect reps than give me 20 with bad form. Because 20 with bad form, all it's doing is teaching you bad habits. A minute has gone by, my friends. Oh, gosh. See, and this is what I meant about having kind of a chill class, right? You know, we're not hefting anything. We're not jumping around and moving all over the place the way that we frequently do. But we're getting to really focus in. We're getting to feel how the movement feels in our body and getting to feel how stillness feels in our body, which is just as valuable sensory input, okay? And that is really important. So let's really focus on being present here tonight as we do this next set of toe raises and then go into our last sequence through these exercises, okay? First we have to get through these toe raises, but we're really focusing in, we're grounded, we're not needing to distract our brains from anything that's going on. We're just here and we're very aware, all right? Every time I push myself up onto the ball of my foot, I am aware of how my ankle needs to engage to maintain that balance. I'm aware of how much force I have to generate to push myself up into that position given the weight that I am hanging on to. I am aware of my core engaging so that I'm not losing any part of the weight or of my balance, all right? And really just feeling those sensations. All right, a minute has passed, which means we are about to head into the last 4 runs, okay? So if you're still finishing up this run of toe raises, don't worry. Don't worry. But yeah, so this is our final time through. I think I see an emote that usually belongs to Steve. Hi, Steve. Yeah, welcome. Yeah, so our final time through, we want it to be just as good as the first time. If you have decided to ramp up the amount of weight that you're using, awesome. Just keep all of our notes over the course of class in mind. Make sure your shoulders engaged. Make sure your core is engaged. You are focused on where you are, on where you're moving. We're not letting that shoulder go slipping down. We are also not trying to pull that shoulder all the way up to our ears. We are trying to maintain a straight stillness in our torso. Yes, we're walking, but I don't want to be creating an S-shaped curve in my body. That's part of the reason I've got those abdominals engaged is so that I've got my balance, counterbalance over here, I've got the weight managed here, and I've got the core engagement, and I am able to keep a nice straight position, remembering to breathe as a minute goes by. All right. And I can pat myself on the back that I feel really confident that that fourth time was just as solid and strong as my first time. Woo. Love it. Love everything about it. Oh, man. Yeah, this is definitely one of those exercises that can sneak up on you. You know, you're like, initially you're like, oh, what am I doing? All I'm doing is holding this thing. And then by the end you're like, oh my God, I've never felt my arms engaged this much. So I always enjoy exercises like that took me a little bit longer to realize how good they were. All right, my friends, last farmer's carry. Get ready and go. All right, and remember we're holding that weight out from our side, okay? So it's not right here next to my thigh. There is space between the weight and my side, okay? And don't forget to breathe. Yeah. Oxygen, still incredibly important for what we're doing. Our muscles are still working super hard, and they need that energy. They need the energy that is being broken down in those individual fibers, which means that those energy production systems need that oxygen to help them get that energy going. All right, a minute has passed. So we've just got 2 more sets, both of them toe raises, first side then second side. Nice big breaths, coming back to our water, making sure that you're hydrating. There we go. There we go. God. Taking a second to smell whatever delicious dinner smells you can. Mine are making me hungry, let me tell you. I am looking forward to dinner after class. Not as a reward, just as something that's going to be fantastic and is going to help me refuel so I can do class in the morning tomorrow. All right. Second to last set, we're doing that first run of toe raises. Another stabilizing muscle group that's helping this exercise out is the glutes. And honestly, I think it's pretty hard to do this without engaging the glutes on the working leg. But if you have somehow managed that feat, make sure you're checking in on, again, we're engaging our core, particularly the obliques, on the same side as the weight, again, so that the weight does not take over and start pulling us over, okay? And engaging the glutes just helps us to really stabilize our balance as we push up onto the ball of the foot, okay? So always check in on all of those stabilizing muscle groups. That was a minute. I'm starting to feel that sweating coming on. Again, just because we're not doing lots of heavy cardio, lots of intense jumping around, if you think that we're not still getting a real good workout, you got another thing coming, my friends. Oh man. So here we go. Our last time, final side on the toe raises. We have been through about half an hour, a little over half an hour. You've heard me talk a lot about all of the different form components, all of the things we should be focusing in on. So let's just take all of that information with us as we move into our final round. All right, we've got 10 seconds. So pick up your weight, make sure that shoulder is engaged, make sure the obliques are ready to help keep you straight up and down, and we're going. All right, so our final time. And that's the thing too, when you aren't moving around as much, you can focus more attention on all of the different areas of your musculature that are engaging in the activity that you might have never really consciously thought about. You know, maybe it never occurred to you that your obliques would want to be engaged to help manage the heavy weight that you're holding so that you don't let yourself get pulled over. Maybe the glutes helping out to stabilize the balance as you go up under the ball of the foot. Maybe that hadn't occurred to you. You know, there are so many components to movement, and we tend to focus on the major muscle group that's doing the work. And that's an important place to focus. And we want to know, you know, which is the muscle group that is getting the most active work out of this. But it does a disservice to all the other muscle groups that are assisting, stabilizing, helping to generate force or rotation or power. There's just so much going on. And so a class like this really lets us settle in and start to feel some of that for ourselves, you know? And that's something that we can train in ourselves, all right? It's not something that comes naturally to everybody, but it's something we can absolutely train in ourselves. Oh, my friends, what a good class, what a good class. Let's do just a little bit of stretching, all right? I'm feeling my calves. I don't know about you, but I am definitely going to do that calf stretch again. So again, push slowly into the stretch. Don't try and force your way down, because then the calf is going to try and contract, and we don't want that, okay? Keep those hips facing the wall, okay? Facing forward, same as with our Samson stretch. Remember, you can push against the wall if you need that extra force to get that heel down to the floor. And I'm just going to keep my hand here because I don't need that extra force, and also I'm not next to my wall. And let's just take 4 deep breaths here, okay? Here we go. That's 1. That's 2. That's 3. And 4. Let that leg come forward. And let's go back. Stretch out the other calf. You can take a sec to figure out the right position. You know, maybe you started here and you're like, oh, that's not quite enough stretch. Maybe then you came back here and you're like, oh, that's way too much. You know, it's fine to be Goldilocks here. You wanna find the distance that's just right, okay? All right, and now let's take those 4 deep breaths again. Here we go. That's 1. That's 2. That's 3. And 4. Stepping forward. Let's stretch over the tops of our feet a little bit. We were doing a lot of coming up onto the ball of our foot, so just stretching our foot out in the opposite direction helps to even that out. And let's just let our arms shake a little bit here. Shake your wrists first. They were doing a lot of work maintaining those heavy weights too, so thank you, wrists. Thank you for your service. Let's let our arms just gently back and forth. Again, you don't want to be forcing them forward and back, okay? Again, we've talked about how unstable the shoulder joints are. All right, now let's take one arm up across the body. Take that other hand just above the elbow and pull it in. This is a good shoulder stretch, and it also can get along the tricep as well, okay? So just bring that in. Try and flatten it against your chest as best you can, okay? You don't need to take the official breaths there, but make sure that you're taking some nice deep breaths, all right? And then release. Let the arms go back and forth a little bit, then other arm up and across. There we go. One side may feel like it feels the stretch a little more intensely than the other. Totally natural. Again, as much as we wish we were, we are not, in fact, symmetrical creatures. All right. And I think that's about good. Oh, friends, that was exactly what I needed, honestly. Well, a nice grounding class where we could really just focus in on where we were and what we were doing, and not trying to overwhelm our brains with stimuli. Oh, thank you, my dear. It's always so wonderful having you all in class. And yeah, I feel really good. You know, it's not a flashy class. It's not getting us super sweaty, but you know, I don't know about you, but I can definitely tell that I worked out. Yeah, that was the speed that I wanted. And you know, we talk so much about listening to the signals that our bodies and brains are sending us, and sometimes we need that slower speed, and that's going to be the way that we can still meet the needs of our brain in that moment and still get a really awesome workout. So don't think of it as a battle. Just figure out, okay, how can body and brain meet each other's needs? And this was what I needed, and it is definitely looking like many of you were feeling the same. So I'm really glad. I'm glad that it wasn't just me and the rest of you were over there going, but I wanted to be jumping around like a crazy person today. All right, my loves. Well, there is one class left for the week, and that's tomorrow morning, Saturday morning at 9 a.m. Mountain Time. It's the weekend kickoff, which is our awesome strength and stamina focused bodyweight class. As Amanda says, we can totally jump around like wild people tomorrow morning. So it's a great time and a great way to start the weekend. So definitely come and join us if you are able to get up that early on a Saturday, which you know, I know not everybody does, but not seconded. Oh, geez. All right. You can follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. All my handles will be in my end cards, but they are all variations on Blanche Case Fitness. My YouTube channel, Blanche Case Fitness, is where I upload the VODs from these streams and where a lot of supplemental material is going to be going. So definitely head over there and subscribe. If you want to help support me financially in making these streams, I do have a coffee account. Sorry, I'm giggling in the chat. Y'all are ridiculous. Don't you do it. Don't you do it. I do have a coffee account, Blanche Case Fitness. Donations are always very much appreciated. And if you want to help me keep growing this channel, engaging with this weird and wacky community that we've got here, then please do follow the channel, tell your friends, loved ones, coworkers, anyone looking for a good class. I'm definitely hoping to ramp up a bit in the new year, and I appreciate all of the help and support that you all have given me over 2020, and I'm looking forward to 2021. So let's bring more people along for the ride. Yeah. Um, you're the worst. All right. Well, my friends, I'd say it's time for a delicious chili dinner, and a shower, and getting back into pajamas, because pajamas are really the best clothes. So drink a lot of water. Make sure to eat some food. Start refueling yourself. Wash your hands and wear a mask if you have to leave your home. Please be safe. Be kind. Take care of yourself and take care of each other. And I'll see you all here again tomorrow. Have a great night.